What is up, duelists, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. It's been a while since I've uploaded, actually, longer than usual, simply because we moved and I've been really busy with French nationals, German nationals, and just moving at the same time pretty much. But I'm back. We've settled in, even though, as you can tell from the background, we're still setting everything up and stuff like that. But I've been back to streaming, and of course, Master Duel has dropped a pretty massive pack recently, the last pack before the Worlds qualifier, and so I started messing around with that. And one of the decks that is in that pack is Eniacraft. And Eniacraft is a very new and very unique deck to Master Duel, and so I tried it on stream. I tried my best to also explain it to you guys a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of an introduction to the archetype in the beginning, simply because it is a deck that a lot of people have struggled wrapping their head around, especially when they're playing against it. So whether you want to play Eniacraft yourself or you're just looking on how to beat it, this video is going to be for you. Hope you enjoy the explanation and the gameplay. Without further ado, let's get started. I guess I should give a little bit of an introduction into the Eniacraft deck, because it is a very, very unique deck that's just been added to Master Duel. And even if you've played or followed the TCG, you don't see it very often. That's because the deck is, well, first of all, more like a rogue deck. Most importantly, it's like super, super unique and different. It's not everyone's cup of tea, basically. Like, some people like it, some people dislike it. The way the deck works is essentially all of them are pendulum flip monsters, but don't let the pendulum discourage you, because you're never going to pendulum summon in this deck, because they are all scale zeros, and they also lock themselves into only summoning face down, because they're all flip monsters. So essentially the way this deck is supposed to work is you're supposed to summon a bunch of monsters face down, and then once they are face down, all of the Eniacrafts, and this is going to help you massively understand the deck. All of the Eniacrafts, even though there's like so many different ones, they all work very, very similarly. By the way, don't take the deck list for granted. I just threw together my first attempt at it. People in chat are already mentioning some cards that you can play. This is just an example, you know. But basically, the way that these cards work is when they're face down on your field, they all work like trap cards, pretty much. For the lack of a better, I think that's the best explanation I can give you. They all have a activation condition, and once that activation condition is fulfilled, you can flip them face up and do something, which is pretty much exactly how you would use a trap card, right? You wait until the condition is met, then you flip it, and then you do the effect. All of them do this, right? Like, for example, when your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand, quick effect, change this face down card to face up defense position, add an Eniacraft card from your deck to your hand, and then you also afterwards get the flip effect of destroy a monster your opponent controls. That's the yugioh here. And that's how all of these cards work. They all have an activation condition when face down, then they will flip themselves up, do something, and then they will also trigger their own flip effects. And the conditions and what their effects are, that's what's different about all of these, right? Like, for example, yugioh triggers on an effect in hand, flips itself up, searches, then destroys a monster. Alazonia activates when your opponent activates an effect that adds a card from deck to hand, and then adds an Eniacraft card from deck to hand, and then also banishes a random card from your opponent's hand. Then you have Tromaria, which activates when your opponent activates an effect that special summons. You can change it face up, add a card, and then negate the effects of a face-up monster your opponent controls. Notable, all of these flip effects are mandatory, so that sometimes is good, sometimes is bad, depending on which situation you're in, but they're going to be chain link 1 even on your opponent's turn, which is sometimes bad. For example, in the case of Tromaria, if your opponent activates Pymena, you can activate it to flip itself face up to search, but then the Arthalion is going to be on a higher chain link than your Tromaria, because mandatory. So you're going to be chain link 1 Tromaria, chain link 2 Arthalion, for example, which means that you're not negating the Arthalion pretty much successfully. And then there's Ogneria, which is when your opponent activates a card effect, Engraver Banishment, flip it face up to add. All the small ones add on when they flip themselves up. And then on flip, it shuffles 3 cards from opponent's Graver Banishment into the deck. And then we have the Exapathesia, which triggers when your opponent activates an effect that sets a card. And then you can also destroy a spell trap. This one is basically made to counter Draco Tail, because Draco Tail was a really hard matchup for this deck. This one is made to beat Draco Tail. And then all of the small ones have exactly the same pendulum effect, which is also very important to remember. All of the small Eniacrafts have the same pendulum effect, and all of the big Eniacrafts also have a different one, but the same pendulum scale effect. So all of the small ones are, each time a monster is flipped face up, they get a counter. Those counters are what you're going to eventually potentially use to win the game. But they all have pay 900 life points, reveal 3 Enya crafts from your deck, and get a random one to your hand. That's all of them once per turn. You can pay 900 to search, which is also why this deck is so bad against Troll and Lockbird, which is just one of the other issues that this deck has. Like, it's already a rogue deck, but it's super weak into Troll and Lockbird. And that is one of the reasons why people are playing cards like Dimension Shifter or Dimensional Fissure in this deck, is not only because they're powerful floodgates against some decks in the format, but also because this deck is so bad into Droll. So that's all the small ones, all have an effect to search. So these are basically your starters. You want to see as many of these as possible. And then also one effect that I haven't even mentioned this yet, but every single Enya craft, doesn't matter if small or big, has the same effect of you can reveal this card in your hand, special summon a monster from your hand in face down defense position. This is not once per turn. So what happens basically is you do a lot of searching, you do some drawing, you assemble all of your Enya crafts, and then you reveal the same one over and over and over again to summon all of them to your field. Now, you are locked. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect except in face down defense position. So there's no way to abuse this. There's no way to like spam and summon like from the extra deck or whatever. You have to summon everything face down. But you can essentially reveal one Enya craft over and over to summon all your other stuff from the hand face down, which essentially means that your opponent has to play a guessing game on which ones you have. They don't know which ones you have face down. They don't know where they are, right? So they have to play around all these different like trigger conditions or activation conditions without knowing exactly which ones you have, which is kind of like the fun of this deck, is like playing around with that like knowledge difference between like you and your opponent. Your opponent has to play really well in order to maneuver around all of your flip effects, and then you can punish them if they don't. That's the idea of Enya craft. All the big ones are typically the ones that are more powerful when they're on the board, but they have a weaker pendulum scale effect, I would say, because the big ones don't search, so they're not starters. But the big ones say at the end of the battle phase, if you have an Enya craft card in your other pendulum zone, target one monster your opponent controls with less attack than this card, destroy it. The attack on all of these is 3000, so basically going second, because you're not summoning stuff face up, you can still use your battle phase as like a removal tool by just putting these in the scale and going to the battle phase and then destroying some stuff. But they also collect counters when a monster is flipped face up. On field, they basically all have more powerful flip effects pretty much, or more powerful stuff that happens when you get to flip them face up. So essentially, the most powerful one and like the flagship of the archetype is probably a Torimar. So a Torimar says, during your turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect on the field, you can change this face down card to face up defense position, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So it's an Omni negate on your turn for cards on the field. You can't negate hand traps with it, but you can negate everything that happens on the field, flip itself face up, and destroy the card, which would be completely broken if you could also use it on the opponent's turn, but you cannot. But the crazy thing about this card is that its flip effect that happens after you negate a card and flip itself up is change all your opponent's monsters to face down defense position. The monsters that were cannot change their battle positions. So essentially, this deck is aiming to like also stun lock your opponent out of the game by like flipping some of their most important pieces face down, and they just are stuck there forever. This is something that, depending on the deck you're playing against, is more or less powerful. For example, against fusion decks, this is not that big of a deal because they can still fuse with face down monsters. But against something like Cool Tune, this is really good because you can't synchro with face down cards. So you can essentially clog your opponent's entire board sometimes with useless cards that they can't use anymore to win the game over time. That can happen. So this card is really powerful. And even though you cannot use the negate on your opponent's turn, it helps you massively when you go second. And the deck does have ways to flip up this card on your opponent's turn, which means you're not getting the negate, but you're getting the flip effect of putting everything face down. It's kind of like a better version of the Ruma Karma Cannon almost, because they can never change the positions. It just doesn't work against Link monsters, unlike Karma Cannon. But that's one of their main like stalling tools. And then we have the other ones, which are just meant to stop your opponent from picking apart your board. You have Architail, which says when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card on the field, quick effect, you can change this card to face up defense position. Monsters and any craft spells you control cannot be destroyed by card effects for the rest of this turn, so it protects your stuff from being destroyed. The biggest problem of this card in particular is that it can be chain blocked. And that's how all of these Enya craft cards work. They all say when your opponent does that, or when your opponent does this, they always have to chain immediately to that effect. So one of the biggest problems of Architail is that when your opponent goes chain link 1 Murakumo, chain link 2 something else, you can't do anything about it. Your entire board dies. So this is one of the most important things about this deck, is that you can chain block all of these effects. So if you know what they have, you can play around it. After this card was flipped face up, while it's in the monster zone, each time a monster is sent to your opponent's grave, they take 900 damage is the effect that you get after it's successfully flipped. But this one is meant to work against destruction. Also, not only can it be chain blocked, it also only works against cards that guaranteed destroy a card on the board. They did this deck a little dirty with the wording, because, for example, Dracotail Pan in the graveyard is, you can set a Dracotail spell trap from your deck and then you can destroy a card. Because it's optional, Architail doesn't work, which is really bad. It's really, really bad because you simply can't do anything about Urgula and Pan either. So like it's difficult. Which is where this guy comes in, but this is the one that in the TCG they released later to solve this problem. So this card is potentially one of the most powerful cards in the deck and is one of the most important cards to play around as well. But if your opponent does play around it, then it's harder to really make good use of this card. But essentially, what this card says is when your opponent activates a card or effect as chain link 3 or higher, quick effect, change this face down card to face up defense position, negate the activation of your opponent's cards and effects activated before this card in the chain, and if you do, destroy them. This negates the entire chain. This is really, really powerful if you ever get to resolve it. However, of course, one way to play around it is to never go all the way to chain link 3. For example, if you summon a Murakumo, you're not going to go Murakumo 1, Kusanagi 2, and Aramasa 3, because that's a disaster. You just go just Murakumo and Kusanagi and you're fine. But yeah, this is something to keep in mind. After this card was flipped face up, while it is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to their own cards or effect activation. This is the really broken effect of this card. If you ever manage to get this card flipped face up, your opponent can no longer chain block you. Right? That's the main idea behind this card, is you're trying to flip it face up, and once it's flipped face up, your opponent can do no more chain blocking. If your opponent makes like a cool tune synchro with 2 or 3 materials, you cannot activate all of them. You can only activate one at a time. You can never chain block again. So this card is essentially like one of the things, like it sounds more broken in theory than it is in practice. From what I've seen so far, it is kind of hard to get this card rolling because it's hard to flip it up if your opponent plays around it, and then it usually ends up being flipped face up a little bit too late. You know, I don't understand the chain blocking. Let's start from scratch. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card on the field, that only works in immediate response to an effect like this. So if your opponent activates Raigeki, you can chain this card to the Raigeki. If your opponent activates, let's say they're playing Cool Tune and they synchro summon a Cool Tune remix using Mix and Q. And then they go Chainlink 1 in the graveyard, Mix to destroy a card, Chainlink 2 Q to manipulate the top deck. You cannot chain this card because it's too late. In this example, the Mix has been chain blocked by putting the Q on a higher Chainlink. Because if you do it the other way around, if you go Chainlink 1 Q in the graveyard, Chainlink 2 Mix to destroy, then the Architail can chain to the Mix. Because the Mix is the last thing to happen, the last thing to go onto the chain, you can respond to it. This is in Yu-Gi-Oh! What we refer to as chain blocking. It's not an official term, but that's what everyone means when they say chain blocking, is when you put a card, when you have multiple triggers and you put them on the chain in such a way that one of them cannot be negated by a certain card. Like, for example, Ash Blossom as well. Or something like that, or Ghost Bell, right? Like if you make it was a very common thing in Dracotail format, or in anything when Dracotail is involved. When you make an Arthalion with a couple of Dracotails, you would put the Arthalion and Chainlink 1, and then the other Dracotails after. That way, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion cannot negate the Arthalion because it needs to also be immediately chained to the thing that you want to negate. So that's in general what chain blocking is, and it's also relevant for basically all of the ENIAC craft cards. And this card, once it's face up, it says your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to their own cards, means that when you activate something as Chainlink 1, you can't activate something else as Chainlink 2. You have to choose one, which prevents chain blocking, which is really important because chain blocking is one of ENIAC Craft's biggest weaknesses. I hope you got it. Okay. And then we have Astapixia, which is when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, change this face down card to face up defense position, negate that effect, then you can banish face down one random card from your opponent's hand. So this card stops targeting. And after it's flipped face up, your opponent cannot target cards in the field or graveyard with card effects. That includes their own cards, which is really powerful. So yeah. And then we have the Isa Leon, which is when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your card or effect, you can change this face down card to face up defense position, return up to 3 cards from the field to the hand. This is like also a really good way to play into boards going second, is to set Isa Leon first. And then when they chain to something, you just go, okay, I'll bounce your entire board. So I like this guy for going second a lot. Going first, it's not quite as good, but it's pretty good going second. And then after it's flipped face up, while this is in the monster zone, each time your opponent adds a card to their hand by their card effect, they take 900 damage for each card. So far, we're just setting and flipping some flip guys. The win condition is burn damage via the field spell, because the field spell, the counters that these cards assemble in the scales, in the end phase, you can remove those counters to inflict 900 damage per counter. So eventually, when you stall the game out for long enough and you collect counters, you can win the game with any Appalus in the end phase. Or you can also accumulate burn damage, of course, from Isa Leon or Architail. And then basically the spell cards are just here to help the consistency of the deck. We have Eniac Craft Release, which places an Eniac Craft from your deck in your Pendulum zone, and then it has an effect from the grave to create follow-up. You have Eniac Craft Rebirth, which is my favorite card in the deck because it draws cards. Shuffle any number of Eniac Craft monster cards from your hand and or face-up field into the deck and extra deck, then draw the same number of cards. Most importantly, this card says monster cards, which means you can return your Pendulum Scales, because Pendulum Scales are considered spell traps, but they are still originally monster cards. So you can shuffle in your, basically what you're trying to do, because of course you have multiple cards that can search in your scale, is you try to activate 2 of them, search with them, and then you want to free up your Pendulum Scale again by shuffling them into the deck and drawing cards. And that way you can like replay other scales and search with those to create more card advantage. And then this card is also really, really important because it says if your opponent normal or special summons a monster while this card is in your grave, banish this card and activate one of these effects. Special an Eniac Craft from your hand in face down defense position, or change a face down defense position Eniac Craft monster you control to face up defense position. The reason why this is so important for this deck is because you can flip up cards on your opponent's turn without meeting their trigger condition. So for example, you can flip up the spider without your opponent ever going to chain link 3. If they just play around it, you can flip it up at some point and prevent your opponent from chain blocking further. So that's why having this card in the graveyard in turn 1 is so important. And then we have Eniac Craft Reset, which is just more access to the field spell and allows you to put Eniac Craft monsters back face down. So yeah. Why no Vanity's Fiend? I'm not sure if playing Vanity's Fiend in this deck is optimal, but I'm gonna be honest with you. To me, Eniac Craft is a very fun rogue deck. I honestly see no real reason to put Vanity's Fiend into this deck because it takes away all the fun for me. Like if I'm trying to win as much as possible, I'm not playing Eniac Craft personally. So Dimensional Fissure is a little bit different. Dimensional Fissure is a little bit different because it helps you against Droll and Lockbird. Like that's a genuine thing. It's like, okay, you know, if I get Drolled, I can't play my deck. So let's play Droll and Lockbird to prevent Droll and also be a good card in general. I could see that. I could see changing the Fallen and the Virtuous for Dimensional Fissures. That's something that you can absolutely do. For Vanity's Fiend, like, I don't know. I played Vanity's Fiend in this deck once, and I was just like, every time I have this card, I'm not having fun. So I might as well not. The reason for me to play this deck is because I think it's awesome and I think it's fun. If I summon Vanity's Fiend, I'm taking the fun away even for myself, so I'm not doing it. The extra deck is completely irrelevant, by the way. The deck basically never summons from the extra deck. I put 2 Typhons because Typhon is good against Cool Tune, and Cool Tune might hit the Typhon with Clip randomly, so I put 2. But for the most part, you just don't need your extra deck. You really don't need it. I put the Fallen and the Virtuous targets, and I put Typhon. I even put Entis, Garura, and Malong, just in case I'm running into a Dogmatica deck that summons the one that sends some cards from extra deck to grave. But realistically, you do not need your extra deck in this deck. So, yeah. Can you play Equation Cannon? You could, yeah, because you don't need your extra deck at all. You could play the Equation Cannon trap. Sure. Let's play some shapes. Let's confuse some people. It's also been a while. I haven't played the deck with the new support yet, so I might even confuse myself a little. It's not an interruption, it's a floodgate? Ah, yes. Book of Moon is a floodgate. You heard it here first. It's perma Boku Moon? Yeah, but that rarely matters. It really rarely matters. Then why is it called Floodgate Trap Hole? Okay, I don't have a good answer for that one. Deck seems fun. Maybe I'm gonna build it. Yeah, this might change your mind. I mean, it's technically not the end of the world. The biggest problem is that I don't have Rebirth in Graveyard. It's actually like not that bad if you draw a bunch of different NER crafts to get rolled. It's just that you don't have any way to choose what's on your end board. It's just what's in your hand is now your end board. And if that's not good in the matchup, then, well, you're screwed. And these are not good against Vanquish Soul. Orgia is going to do a lot of heavy lifting. Yeah, it's good. Orgia is good against Vanquish Soul if they go for Holisu. It looks like they're gonna... Okay. Into the Spear. The mirror match must be insane. Yeah. Is Raigeki good against any aircraft? Usually not, no. Burn! No! Ah, come on, man. Yeah, I can't win that. I have the wrong Enya crafts for this situation, man. This one is completely useless against Vanquish Soul. The worst one of all the small ones, I'm pretty sure. The Graveyard one is also pretty bad. This is not relevant in this matchup. And this is also not very good in this matchup. The field spell sets? Yeah. I guess. But it won't... Yeah, they just Zeus. Like, the thing is, this doesn't survive until the end phase. I love how the aircraft names are so complicated that Josh is calling them this one and this. I mean... Okay. Is there a win condition here? Or nah? I mean, Rebirth, I do need to go through Rebirth in order to have a chance, even. But I'm just gonna have to Rebirth and draw more small ones, is the only thing I can do. Okay, I've used the yellow one already, but this one not. This deck is so dumb. No, you. Use this one. Oh no, I should have said this one first. That's so bad. That was so bad of me. I had to set first. Because now, the problem is now... Oh, that's so bad. The problem is Zeus now. Maybe it's okay because this searches? I don't know. Oh god, I wish this is the kind of deck where like I wish I knew the ins and out of it, but I haven't learned it enough yet. But come on, there's no way we win that. There's no way we're supposed to win that. That's crazy. I keep drawing all the big ones and not enough small ones. I mean, release is one small one, but this plays through like no hand traps now. It's the annoying thing. So, is there any sort of like idea of which one I should start with? Or does it not matter if I just have one release? Yellow. Summon Leon first? Why? You can bounce the scale back? Yeah, but I have the field spell. I can already do that. So I'm going to do one now. Then I'm going to place. That's going to search another searcher. I'm going to Annieopolis, clear my scales, place another searcher, get another searcher, get rebirth, draw is the plan. Which means that the order doesn't really matter, I don't think. Because in this case, I'm just going to draw with most of these anyways. You want to keep yellow though? I mean, I can, right? I'll throw my opponent off. Konami, why does my rogue deck that sets 5 monsters lose to Maxi? Why has the meta been kept in check now? Exactly. We don't lose the Fuwa though. That's true. We don't lose the Fuwa. So what I'm gathering is when I activate Rebirth, the 2 in my scales are ones that I don't want to keep, right? Because those are definitely going into the deck. The ones in hand I can keep if I want to, but the ones in scale I definitely shuffle. It's so dumb, man. Yeah, surely I can beat 9 cards in hand. Low key, you beat this? I high key think you're lying. Ha! Sniped. Man. You have the Scorpion. I mean, if they play Black Rose, they just chain block it and I'd lose immediately. Yep. Nothing I can do. Why not flip the Scorpion? Because it was chain blocked. And if I use Reverse to flip it up, it doesn't get the other effect. It only gets the after it's flipped face up while it's in the monster zone. Each time a monster is sent, they take 900 damage. I just can't. There's nothing this deck can do about this. It's the same problem with Chainlink 1 Murakumo, Chainlink 2, anything else. There's just nothing you can do. I could have done something about it if I had the big spider. If I had the spider, I could have flipped it up with Rebirth beforehand, and then they couldn't have chain blocked anymore. That's something I could have done. Yeah. Yeah, you have to summon the... Basically, you have to flip summon the spider preemptively, yeah. The problem is, guys, you don't really know the Elf Note cards. If I pop the Power Patron with Fallen and the Virtuous, they get a search, and then they just tribute their Central Main Monster Zone Lucina for Regina, and they can still do the same thing. Or they, even better, they don't search. They just don't search. And then they can chain block later. If they play it well, and that's one of my biggest problems with Eniacraft. If your opponent plays it well, they should always win. They legitimately should always win if they play well with certain decks. It does depend on the deck a little bit. In some matchups, it's not like this, but in a lot of matchups, it is like this. It only searches on synchro. Oh, then they can't even misplay. Yeah, that's even worse. So then I pop it, and then they use Welcome Home to tribute the thing in the center, summon Regina, or search Regina, summon Regina, whatever, and then get another Power Patron. Wait, which one? I need to remember which ones I returned. Okay. Get released. How do you keep track in TCG? With your brain. All right, now give me some big ones. Those are the same ones, and they're all... I mean, this I can use the same one twice, right? Again? Do I just... Guys, do I just... They can tribute summon? They can tribute. I'll wait. I mean, I'll just wait for them to normal summon so that I can flip the power patron face down with it as well, or like resolve Regina or something. No. In Regina here. Nice. I kind of like ending on the small ones because it means that you have follow-up. Oh, it's cool tune elf notes. Oh, that's scary. Not yet. Get popped. Not yet. Wait, why? Why could I not activate Alazonia? You need to say no to the rebirth prompt first. But aren't they both? Oh no, this is a quick effect, right? Ah, yeah, no. This is a trigger, and the Alazonia is a quick effect. Yeah. Wait, only one? Up to the number of cards in your pendulum zones. Oh, okay. I thought I could flip them all face down again, but it's just I should have put one in the scale then so I can flip two face down. Easy clap, huh? Easy clap. I mean, look, the whale is a powerful interruption. The whale is a really powerful interruption. And the little guys are actually surprisingly annoying, especially the one that like pops a monster and the one that hand rips. Like the yellow and red are surprisingly strong like interruptions. Lots of small Enya crafts, but not the red one. Which is annoying. Am I the only one who always bluffs the Orgia or Whale? Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think bluffing Orgia doesn't make sense because no one knows what it does. I think is honestly the problem. Like you can't bluff something that people don't know exists. Okay, so do I rebirth first here, or do I Annieapolis bounce first? Yeah, I'm gonna rebirth first. Oh, okay, never mind. Fine. This is kind of annoying. Because now I'm gonna have the good ones in scale, right? No release? Oh yeah, I forgot release. Hmm. Okay. That's weird. Probably means they have white albas already. Or branded fusion. Hell yeah. Dude, that feels so good. Holy shit. What? Dude, that's crazy. Oh my god, that feels good. Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Have your albas. I think that's fine. They're locked into fusions anyways. Good lord. I mean, yeah, let's, for good measure, let's just flip them all down. No, why not? Why not, dude? Let's also flip the blue one back. I don't know, it doesn't matter, dude. Jesus. Oh, I could have changed. Ah, good. Can they make Lenatus with those two face downs? Theoretically, or is it face up dragons for Lenatus? I know the Albaz can be face down. Oh! Dude! The day where I can use Expetitia's effect? Holy shit, it has come. The day has come. Don't pop my field spell, please. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can just get another field spell next turn and win anyways. So what now? Titaniclat summon Albaz? This is so funny. Oh god. I'll just grab the field spell. This is where my non-engine comes in. Wait, how much damage is this? This is infinite. $9,000? No, it's more. Hold up. If they let me do it, I'll show you. But it's more. So I flip him manually. Because the thing is, this is something that not everyone knows, but the scales also gain counters when you attack something, because it says when a monster is flipped face up. This also happens when I swing at something. Up, up. Up, up. Up, up. Up, up. Yeah, 100 directly. Massive. And then we go into the end phase. Oh, that's awesome. Dude, I'm so glad we kept playing this deck until we resolved this effect, dude. That feels so good. That feels so good. Negate the entire chain. My god. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Okay. Okay, and that's Eniacraft. That is Eniacraft. I personally, I think it was pretty clear in a lot of these games that we are winning because our opponents are misplaying. This is something absolutely the case with this deck. When you play properly against this deck, it has a lot of weaknesses. And yeah, there's a couple of changes you could make to the deck. You could play like the ratios of the big ones. I'm really not sure which ones you want at 3. I don't know if Fallen the Virtuous is necessary. It's a nice little tool that I like, but doesn't have to be in this deck. The Max C for going second probably should be here, but at the same time, you could also cut it. I don't know if it's that necessary here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Some people play Sol and Luna. Some people play Daruma Karmic Cannon. There's a lot of different things you can do with this deck, but I think it's fun. I enjoy it. I think it's a funny little deck that you can catch people off guard with. I mean, even all the way up until master rank, as we just saw today, right? But yeah, I think it's a fun little deck, and you should try it if you are looking for something super unique. But if you're looking for like a standard combo deck or standard Yu-Gi-Oh deck experience, then this deck is probably not for you. But yeah, do I need 3 of the UR spell? Yes, absolutely. That's the unfortunate part about this deck. I said that earlier already, but I feel like for what it is, like a rogue deck, I feel like it's relatively expensive because you absolutely do need 3 Alazonia, 3 Atorimar, and 3 release. So it is 9 ultra rares. There's no way around it, I think. Because like the reason why you do absolutely need 3 of each is because the way the scales work, it's like reveal 3 cards from your deck, randomly get 1 in hand. And like playing less copies of release is sometimes you just need to get this card off of your scale effect. You don't want to reveal 2 of it and then not get it if you want to set it up in your graveyard. Yeah. Isn't 9 cheap nowadays? I mean, okay, considering that you basically need nothing else and you also don't need an extra deck, like you can literally put, we summoned 0 cards from the extra deck this entire time, right? So like you can, if you don't play Fallen and the Virtuous, you literally do not need your extra deck, right? So I guess if you look at it from that perspective, it is literally 9 URs total that are required. Like you can play other cards. Like you can replace Fallen and the Virtuous with Dimensional Fissure, which I'm pretty sure is a rare, which helps you beat Droll and Lockbird. So yeah, you can do that. And then your extra deck doesn't matter and you need 9 URs total and the deck is done. Pretty much. So I guess it's fine. I guess it's fine. I'm gonna just put my royals in the extra. Yeah, you can just put 15 royals that you have into the extra deck and just and just blind your cool tune opponents if they go for crackle. Like, which you would think no one does, but we had one person today make crackle against me, which was weird. But yeah, if they see 15 royals, maybe you get some aura points from that. Extravagance, you cannot play extravagance or prosperity in this deck, unfortunately, because this card is one of your most important end board pieces. Having an ENIAC Craft Rebirth in the graveyard is absolutely crucial because it lets you flip the whale at any point in your opponent's turn. It's because it says if your opponent normals or specials while this card's in the grave, you can change a face down ENIAC Craft face up. You do need this card in your graveyard in turn 1. I think that's also one of the bigger problems of getting drolled is that you can't activate this card because getting it into the graveyard is so nice. And that's why locking yourself out of drawing, I think, is not good in this deck. I feel like it's really crucial to have Rebirth in grave, and you can't use it after those.